Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Business Growth Club. This is your weekly edition from the Business Growth Club, and in this edition, we're going to be continuing our review of return on investment, and we're going to look at how you can make your numbers, your return on investment numbers, work for you and your business. The story so far on return on investment, ROI, has been that we know what it is now. I described it recently as the most boring but the most important number in all of marketing. Well, today we're actually going to challenge the idea that it's a boring number, because I'm going to show you how you can use the templates you've completed. So you've completed your own return on investment, and I'll see you how you can take it from a very boring number into something quite exciting, because you can generate some serious profit. And I'm sure you'd agree that serious profit is quite exciting. Now, I said in last week's recording that if you use the free template that we gave you to measure your own return on investment, which will only take a couple of minutes, then this week we would look at what your figures were, and I would take everybody's everyday marketing campaigns, and I would show you how to take a campaign, no matter how much money it's making, whether it's £50, £1,000, or £100,000, and we'd see how we might be able to improve that by the continuous improvement model. Now, lots of you contacted me to say that you'd like to do that, and you sent me over the information, but actually your information is maybe not as precise, and I needed to ask some more questions. So what we've done is we've put that on hold for next week. So we'll take a look at real-life examples next week. This week we're going to look at, I won't call them fictitious examples, because we're going to look at common returns on investment from adverts, direct mail and networking, and see how we would take our ROI figures and grow them. So as I say, whilst I've made them up, I've actually based them on very real life return on investment, the type of results people get, and I see people's marketing every day. So I've tried to etch them in reality. I've also used some of my own personal examples of a postcard campaign I ran, and how I was initially not very impressed with the results, and how via the continuous improvement model or the extrapolation model I actually got some serious income, over £100,000 from that. So we'll be looking at those, and next week we'll actually take your real life examples of real Business Growth Club members, seeing what return on investment you're currently getting, and we'll actually look at how you improve them. If it's appropriate, I'll actually take some of your campaigns, and I won't just show you how to improve them. I'll actually work with you and do that, and we'll do a video maybe in 6 months' time where we'll see what impact my improvements have had. Now, what I would say is if you want to join in on that, then please do send me your return on investment information by Tuesday next week. I know that's a short deadline, but I do need time to prepare the video and produce it. I can't promise to include everybody, but I'll include as many people as I can. Obviously, there's a certain length to the videos, but if you want to be included, please send me information. You know the email address by Tuesday, and we can include you in it. Now, if you've not quite got down to using your template yet, if you scroll below this video, you'll see there's two versions of the spreadsheet, the return on investment spreadsheet. There's the latest version of Excel, and then an old version of Excel if you're still on that. And if you've completed your spreadsheet, you'll have lots of interesting numbers. And as I say, in today's recording, we're going to be looking at what numbers you will have and how you do something about it. So why don't we get started? Now, if you've completed the spreadsheet, you will have something that looks a little bit like this. Obviously, I've put this into a presentation format, not into the Excel format, but you'll recognize the figures. On the left-hand side, you've got the campaigns, you've got the income, the costs, the net income, and the comments, the kind of particulars about the campaign. Now, as I say, in next week's video, we're going to do a lot more on this, and we're going to take it into a lot more detail, and I'm going to show you how you can really start to have fun with it. But for now, I'll just introduce you to a few basic concepts, and we'll see a few easy ways that we can start to grow and multiply our income. So, first of all, I'll run through each campaign. I've only put 6 on my screen. I'll briefly explain the campaigns, then we'll look at how we could grow and multiply the income, or to see if the marketing's working or not. So the first example is an advert in the trade press in January. We made £2,000 worth of sales off it. It cost us £500, so we made £1,500. That was a half-page advert. Now in February, for the same advert, we actually made £8,000, but it cost us 3 times as much, £1,500. But of course our return on investment is much higher. The difference, we placed a half-page advert plus an insert flyer, and we'll come on to this a little bit later. Some sales letters, traditional sales letters. We made £800 worth of sales, but it cost us £750, so that's £50 worth of profit, not very much. It was 5 appointments generated, but only 1 sale. Again, we'll return to that. Postcard campaign, again direct mail. We made sales of 3,200. The cost was 750. and 2,450 was the income. So just over, call it £2,500. 5 appointments and 4 sales. And finally, we're a member of a Chamber of Commerce. We've made £2,000 out of it. It costs us £1,000 in membership and the money and time to attend the events. £1,000 is the income. We went to 6 events, 4 appointments, 3 sales. So that's the information. What do you do with that information? Because I appreciate you saying to me, all you're making me do is fill in spreadsheets and I'm just figuring out that I've made some money on campaigns. Maybe you've made a loss on other campaigns. Why is this useful? Well, of course it's useful because number one, you'll know if your campaigns are working or not. I don't want you to know whether generally, on the marketing budget you have, you make a profit. That's not useful information. What's useful information is knowing per campaign how much money you made. As I say, next week I'll look in more detail, but just for this week, as a teaser, we'll look at a little bit more information. So it's not just filling in spreadsheets. We knew from our January advert that we made £1,500. As I've said so many other times in marketing, I don't really care how much we've spent. That's an irrelevant number. I don't care if we spent £100,000. I want to know what our return was after costs. So if we bring in £200,000 worth of sales, and it cost us £150,000 to do it, we've still made £50,000. That's a return on investment. As I said last week, return on investment is strictly a ratio or a percentage. I prefer to look at it just as a net income because I think that's easy. I know this is a little bit numbers based. Unfortunately, it has to be, but I want to keep it as simple as possible. I don't want to use a ratio because, I'm keeping it basic for you. But basically, we know that this campaign is £1,500, so that's why I'm focusing just on the income. So forget the cost and all the rest of it. That's just what you type into the spreadsheet to get this number, this net income. That's the first column on the spreadsheet that's in orange. That first one we automatically calculate for you. Now, what do we do with this information? Well, obviously, if we know that it works in January, we will keep doing it. However, I always like to optimize marketing. So I wouldn't just say run it again in February. I would say let's do something different in February. So we could increase the size of the advert. So we could try a full page advert. Remember, this was a half page advert. We know that the size of the advert can sometimes make a big difference, as can where it appears. You'll all know that placing it on the right hand side of the page is better. So if you get offered top right corner or top left corner, you'll be offered a greater fee for the right hand side. So you know that. So you know the basics and you know the different ways it can work. But fundamentally, we know a bigger ad or in a different place. So let's change it. So we could try a full page one. We could try some editorial coverage as well. You would be amazed how many times I've placed adverts and I've said I'm going to buy a full page advert off you for £500, £1,000, whatever the number happens to be. And I'll also say, but I'd like some editorial coverage. I'd like you to come and interview me for the magazine, or more than likely, I will provide them with the editorial coverage, or you can use your PR agency to do that for you. You'd be surprised how often they'll give you entirely free editorial coverage. They might try and charge you, but again, that's negotiation skills. But you could try that. Another tactic is to do an insert. It's well known in the advertising industry, but when you're advertising in magazines, whether it's trade magazines or just normal, if you are advertising in a rugby magazine and it's Rugby Weekly, it doesn't really matter, whatever it happens to be, some sort of magazine, domestic, consumer, business, whatever. If you're advertising in a magazine, it's well known that if you use an insert as well, that's all of the stuff that falls out of the magazine when you open it. That will dramatically increase response rates. That's a general rule, you have to test it. Now, don't worry, I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you here. In the future, we're going to look at optimizing advertising and all of the rest of it. But basically, I'm just trying to say, if you ran an advert in January and you made £1,500, we know if we run it in February, the chances are we will make £1,500. However, how could we increase that? There's just some ideas. Try and insert a full page advert, not half page, or editorial coverage. Only ever change one something at a time. Why? If we changed this for February and we changed all of it and we doubled our income or halved our income, we wouldn't know why. We wouldn't know what was different. So only test and measure one something, at any one time. So let's have a look at what we did. We did our first example. If I was running advertising that was working, the first something I would do is I would use that in insert. So our costs went up, remember. In this, if you look on the previous slide, I actually said that we had an income of £1,500. This one we've got an income of 6,500. It costs more, but our income, our net income, was significantly higher. Why? Because we inserted a flyer. It cost us an extra £1,000, but we made extra income. So we've taken on an advert for making £1,500 to 6,500. Now in the future videos I'll show you how to do this in even more detail. As I say, this is just a teaser, a bit of an introduction. But you see how knowledge is power. If we know we've placed an advert for £1,500 income, we know we'll make £1,500, but I never ever settle in marketing. You can always optimize. I'm yet to have a fully optimized campaign, even campaigns I've been running for several years now. So we changed something, we put an insert, and we dramatically improved our results. Now what do we do next? Well, even if we were to just keep this the same, again I would keep testing, measuring and adapting, but even if we keep it the same, if we run it every month for 12 months, we'd actually make £78,000. We could also, again, try other similar magazines. We've advertised in Rugby Weekly and it's really worked, so find Rugby Monthly or Rugby World or, whatever other magazines are similar out there. So that's how we go from a very boring spreadsheet to something that's actually useful to our business. Now let's analyse our letters. Remember, we only made £50 income on our letter. But recall I said we'd actually generated 5 appointments, but only 1 sale. That's why I say record the stuff in the spreadsheet that's on the other side, the number of appointments you attend, the inquiries, all of that sort of stuff. Because 5 appointments to 1 sale is only a 20% conversion rate. So actually this is where it gets interesting. It might not be that our letter is bad. It could be our letter's very good. It's generated 5 appointments, which is, a decent number of appointments for one direct mail campaign. But we didn't make very many sales. I would suggest we actually need to look at our sales conversion tactics. So sometimes measuring that additional information gives us crucial information like this. So before we run any more letters, improve our sales skills. Go on sales training. Listen to the videos I've produced on how to improve your sales skills. Whatever, do something to become a better salesperson and then run a different campaign. So additional information can give you more information. Let's turn to our postcard campaign. Remember, we sent out 500 postcards, we brought in some income, it obviously cost a bit of money, so we made, let's call that £2,500 income. So our income, our net income from the campaign, after cost was £2,500. And we sent out the 500 mailings. Now this is actually a personal example. I've included this to show you how it's absolutely crucial that you measure your return on investment and you do something with it. Because I ran this campaign, £2,500 income after costs, and I wasn't particularly impressed. I thought, well, so what? £2,500 is a small amount of money. My campaigns usually give me much more than that, so I wasn't particularly impressed. I thought, small fry, £2,500, not interested. That was a mistake I made. I did say this was several years ago. That was a mistake. I revisited it, my spreadsheet, about a year after this campaign, and I thought, well, hang on a minute. If we made £2,500, and it wasn't even me that went to the appointments, it was a colleague of mine, so it was a member of the team. I was, it was literally £2,500 in income. Why don't I run this campaign, and instead of doing 500 mailings, I'll do 500 mailings every week, and I'll run it for, a decent period of time. Of course, if you actually do the maths on that, it means you generate a profit of £127,000 over the course of the year. So I made this mistake of just running one campaign, saying, oh, we made £2,500, so what? Small amount of money. It's better than nothing, but, who's going to get excited about £2,500 income or net income? Nobody's too worried about that. Big mistake. You have to look at your numbers in marketing and extrapolate them. If one campaign you run can give you £2,500, get seriously excited. Don't look for the campaigns that give you 10, 20, £30,000 income. There sometimes are campaigns that cost you a lot of money. So you spend £20,000 on advertising, you get £40,000 in income. So you're saying, okay, 40 minus 20,000 gives you £20,000. Oh, brilliant! I've made £20,000. Who cares about £2,500 postcard campaigns? Well, of course, £20,000 is great in income, but don't dismiss for £2,500 in income, because if you run it every single week, and of course you can, it's predictable marketing. As I've alluded to, I didn't attend the appointment; it was somebody else. I was, in crew terms, literally paying somebody to give me £2,500. Now, okay, that's not too exciting. Times it by every week, you make £120,000. Actually, the income from this grew quite a bit more than that, because obviously if you run a mailing every week, you improve your results. You just get better at the mailing because you change stuff, you improve the headline, you improve the offer, you improve the target market, you become more precise. The person attending the appointments gets better and better at making the sales because they're so used to it. But even if you just extrapolated the numbers, you make 127,000. You'd make a lot more if you ran it every week because you'd optimize it. So don't fall into the trap of hunting out the big numbers and saying, oh, £20,000 from a campaign. Of course, keep running those campaigns, keep optimizing them, but even these small little campaigns can dramatically improve your income. So that's just a small example, a personal example there. And finally, I put the Chamber of Commerce networking only made us £1,000. Now notice here, I'm not actually criticising the Chamber of Commerce. I know plenty of people who do brilliantly well out of it. I just put it in there as an example of something that might not be working. That just as well could have been the advert we placed that didn't work. So I'm not actually saying Chamber doesn't work. It's definitely something you should experiment with and attend these events and see if it works. Here it just happens to be something that only gave us £1,000. The reason I'm not excited about this, in the way that I said don't dismiss £2,500 from a postcard campaign because it can grow, is if you have attended all the events in a year and it's only given you £1,000 net income, you can't do anything about that. You can't grow that. You might improve your networking skills, but you can't join the chamber twice. You can't do that. You could join all the local groups if you wanted to, but really I put this in as an example of something not just as marketing that might not be working, so you cut it, but sometimes you can't extrapolate it and you can't grow it. With the postcards, if we sent 500, we can just keep doing it. We can do multiple mailings. We can send it to everybody in the country, not just everybody in a certain town. You can keep growing it. A lot of advertising, such as pay-per-click, other advertising in offline channels, direct mail. Lots of advertising is growable. It's scalable. You can keep increasing it. Something like networking is more difficult to. But I'm not saying networking doesn't work. I've just used it as an example. So don't read into the examples I'm giving. Read into the process here. I said fill in a spreadsheet and it will look a little bit like this. You'll know your return on investment, and that's just valuable. You'll know if you're making a loss or making a profit. But as you've seen from these slides, I can show you that once you know the number, you can do something about the number. As I said, it's just a taster. Next week I'll be showing you how to really figure out your actual profit, and in a video after that we'll be saying how we multiply it and how we grow it. So this is just a basic introduction. So that brings us to the end of today's recording. As you see, return on investment only takes a few minutes. Please use that spreadsheet, enter your details. Feel free to send it to me. We'll anonymize it, and we can use some of your examples to see how we can grow and extrapolate your income. And as I've said before, sometimes this is considered the most boring but the most important number of marketing. It's certainly the most important number, but as you can see from this slide, if you can take £2,500 and turn it to £127,000, you'll probably be seriously interested, and it goes from a boring number to something truly fascinating. Trust me, looking at how you grow and multiply your income becomes fascinating. It becomes very interesting. You don't need to be interested in numbers to know how that works. And of course, once you know your numbers, don't be afraid to experiment. Remember in last week's video, we looked at how you'd know the numbers and how you do something with it, and how that cycle of continuous improvement worked. This week, we've just very briefly touched on how you would experiment and improve on your marketing. And next week and the week after, we'll look in even more detail. So thank you very much for listening to this recording. I hope it's been useful. As always, any questions, particularly when it comes to the numbers and the maths, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea and you might be struggling, just send your questions and I'll help you. It's often I find the questions people send me and what they're struggling with are a big hurdle to you, but it takes me 2 minutes to solve that problem for you and to help you. So please use that question and answer service we have. It's really valuable. So if you're struggling at all, any questions, do contact us. But you'll hear from me again in a week's time. Between now and then, have a fantastic time in business, and goodbye for now.